Imagine 40,000 soldiers dead in a single day. Now imagine the survivors looking at each other and saying, "No more." Not surrendering, not running, just refusing to die for nothing. This is the story of the moment the entire French army broke, and the one man who held it together before Germany could find out. By 1917, France was bleeding out. 3 years of industrial-scale slaughter. Mud, rats, disease, bombardments that never seemed to end. The soldiers called the Western Front l'abattoir, the slaughterhouse, and every single year their generals made the same promise. One more offensive, one more push. This one will end the war. Every year, thousands of men climbed out of the trenches. Almost none came back. Then came General Robert Nivelle, April 1917. He promised, personally promised, to break the German lines in just 48 hours. A massive artillery barrage, a rapid infantry surge. Victory before the week was out. His own officers called it reckless. They warned him. France's leaders approved it anyway. Here's the thing. The Germans already knew it was coming. Their intelligence had intercepted French communications, and they reinforced every position. On April 16th, 850,000 French soldiers went forward, into waiting machine guns. By the end of day 1, 40,000 dead or wounded. Nivelle didn't stop after 48 hours like he promised. He kept going. 18 days. 10,000 men lost every single day. When it finally ended, France had gained a few kilometers of mud. That was it. Something snapped. At first it was small, a unit refusing to move up to the front. Then another. Then whole divisions. Men were shouting, "Down with the war," and "We've had enough." Some tried to board trains to Paris. Others just sat down and refused to move. This wasn't looting. It wasn't rioting. It was something more powerful and more dangerous. It was an army saying, "We will not die for nothing." Within weeks, 30 to 40,000 soldiers across up to 16 army corps had refused to return to the trenches. The French High Command was terrified, and for good reason. If Germany had discovered the true scale of this collapse, they could have simply walked through the French lines and ended the war on their terms. France was one intelligence leak away from total defeat. Here's what's remarkable about this moment. These men weren't revolutionaries. Just weeks earlier, Russian soldiers had revolted, toppling the Tsar, plunging Russia into chaos and civil war. The French soldiers knew that story. One mutineer, a socialist named Louis Barthas, recalled how some wanted to set up soldiers' councils like the Russians. His response: "I had no desire to shake hands with a firing squad, just to pretend we were Russians." Instead, the French mutineers made a simple, dignified demand. "Stop sending us to die for nothing. Give us food, give us leave, defend France, yes, but no more pointless massacres." They were still willing to hold the trenches, still willing to die defending their homeland. They just refused to be slaughtered in attacks that everyone knew would fail. In the words of one group of mutineers, "You have nothing to fear. We will man the trenches. The Germans will not get through, but we will not take part in attacks that result in nothing but useless casualties. That is not cowardice. That is something else entirely." Enter General Philippe Pétain. Nivelle was removed from command. Pétain, who had led France's heroic defense at Verdun, was given the task of saving an army on the edge of collapse. He understood something his predecessors didn't. You can't beat men into loyalty. You have to earn it. So he did both the carrot and the stick. On one hand, crackdowns. Around 22,000 soldiers were found guilty of mutiny or desertion. Between 200 and 500 were sentenced to death, but only around 26 to 55 were actually executed. The rest were imprisoned or had sentences suspended on the condition they returned to duty. On the other hand, reform. Pétain toured the front personally. He improved food. He fixed the broken leave system. He halted large offensives and gave the army time to breathe and recover. Most importantly, he listened. By summer 1917, it was over. Discipline restored. Soldiers back at their posts. Not happy, not naive, but willing. France has a reputation problem, jokes, memes. The tired stereotype of French soldiers surrendering at the first sign of trouble. Most people think of the 6-week collapse of 1940 and assume that defines French military history. It doesn't. This is a nation that stopped the Islamic expansion into Europe at the Battle of Tours in 732 AD. A nation whose soldiers under Napoleon dismantled European superpowers one after another. A nation that held the line at Verdun, one of the bloodiest battles in human history, while screaming, "They shall not pass." And they didn't. By the end of WWII, over 1.5 million French soldiers were dead. Roughly 18% of everyone who served, an entire generation erased. And even during the mutiny, even at their lowest, most broken point, they did not surrender. They did not run. They stood in their trenches and held the line. That is not weakness. That is extraordinary. The French government suppressed this story for decades after the war. Too shameful, they thought. Too disloyal. But historians now see it differently. The mutinies of 1917 weren't a betrayal. They were a cry for survival. The soldiers drew a line, not between France and Germany, but between sacrifice and suicide. And in drawing that line, they may have saved what was left of their army. Because those same men held firm in 1918, survived Germany's final desperate offensives, and were there when the armistice was finally signed. Sometimes the bravest thing a soldier can do isn't charging forward, it's refusing to. If this changed how you think about history, subscribe. We cover the moments textbooks skip. Drop a comment. What other military reputations do you think deserve a second look? If you found this story as compelling as we did, please take a moment to like this video. It helps us share more forgotten stories from the Second World War. Subscribe to stay connected with these untold histories. Each one matters. Each one deserves to be remembered. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below telling us where you're watching from. You are part of something special here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for keeping these stories alive.